Okay, so we are going to work now using the render layers or a case where I have a more comic illustrated solution to my character. And in this case, I have this scene in which I have my character posed in that painted background to which I have a sky dome connected and the image plane, and of course a little bit like a Toon, AI Toon shader connected to my character. So I am going to create a number of layers for it, and I am going to start by calling my render layers window here. I have here already the ambient occlusion and the let me just render it out quickly there just so we can see it. My ambient occlusion shader, let me just render it out quickly there, which it's you need it for your compositing movie. So I'm not going to do it in this video, but if you need to know how to put it together, you need to go and watch the other video that I have next to this one in the playlist for a render layer. Let me just give it a second for it to finish rendering. And there it is, my ambient occlusion, although my background image is not disconnected yet. We will disconnect it in a minute. But you see the ambient occlusion playing out right there. I'm just gonna save that one just for now, and I'm going to also render out here my wireframe, and again the wireframe image you will render it out, and there is a wireframe. And again, for you to set this to up, you need to go and watch the other video. So let me just stop that one there and just save it there so I can have a backup of both right there. So and I have my color, my whole composite together. I'm going to start creating the first layer. So what we said is going to create the new layer here. This is going to be called color, and in this color layer we are going to create a collection again, and it's going to be color collection. And to that collection we are going to add, and make sure it's not rendering, we're going to add, let me go back to the master layer here, click on my creature, add the creature. We need to add the lights that we have in the scene. I have 3 lights because there is a spotlight creating the rim on my character, and that's it. I'm not going to add the image plane because again the image plane will be connected in the compositing session in After Effects. So actually what I need to do with the image plane is disconnect it. So I graph it here, select the image plane, graph it here, and disconnect it from the camera so that it is not visible anymore. And if I go and render this out, of course, you're gonna get a color version of it with the line on it, which is not what I want exactly. I want the color version of a character, but I don't want it to have the outline on it. So let's give it a second for it to finish rendering. So there is my character with the outline on it, and I'm going to render out the outline separately too. So we're going to do the color and the outline separate. So right now we have my color here, and I need to generate the version of it without any lines. The AI Toon shader allows you to render out the combination of the AI Toon and the line apparently on the render view. But when you go and look at the alpha channel, the AI Toon only renders the outline of it. And we need to render out the color in the color layer without the outline. So the thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna just trick or do a quick trick here, and we're going to say, okay, for our color layer, we are going to not render the contour. We're going to render simply the Gaussian filter. I'm gonna just keep it at 2 in width, so that when I render out my color layer, I render out color with the AI Toon on it, but without any line. But in this case, I have an alpha channel that will let me work with it. And I will just simply just put it to render, maintaining my samples, maintaining my Gaussian there. I'm going to make sure that my render is going down. I'm going to go to a TIFF and make sure that I'm using my correct camera. And I'm going to use my HD 1080 the best I can, um, and I'm going to submit it to render. So make sure that when you submit to render, let me just stop it. It's trying to render already at 1080. I am going to go to my rendering menu, set, go render. I'm going to say render sequence. And under the render sequence, I'm going to say make sure you have all the render layers enabled. That way it'll render them out and add to render queue and all cameras enabled and add to render view. I'm going to uncheck my master layer because I don't want to render my master layer. I want to render the wireframe, the ambient occlusion, and the color, but not the master layer. And I'm going to save my scene and submit my render. So I'm going to say render sequence, and that should open up my render window. I was rendering it before, so here it is. It is starting to submit my wireframe. Immediately after, it should start and do my ambient occlusion. And lastly, it is going to render out the color. So there it is, it's rendering my color now. All right, it just finished rendering. And if you go and look under your project, under your images, your Maya folder, under images, you'll have a folder for the wireframe. There is my file. A folder for my master layer, my ambient occlusion, there is my ambient occlusion, and a folder for my color, there is my color layer. So I could use those in After Effects. Now I'm going to go back to this file, and I'm going to create a duplicate of the color layer. I'm going to simply select my color layer and I say edit, copy, and edit paste. It creates a copy of that. I'm going to rename it Toon line. And in this case, this one and this one, of course, has all the same assets as the color layer. In this case, the only difference I'm going to do is I'm going to change on my settings my Arnold from Gaussian to contour. I'm going to change the width to 3 because that's the width that I had in my settings. And I'm going to call my window again, and I'm not going to make the other ones that I already rendered active. So I'm going to just make just the Toon line rendering visible. Hopefully I can test it out here. Not in this window. I don't like that window for some reason. I'm going to do this one here. And I'm going to just do it smaller here and test it out there. And if I look at my alpha, I should be able to see my creature rendering there. There it is. I can see the line color being rendered And of course, if I look at the color version of it, it comes with a color of it, but that color is not visible. I don't know. It won't be visible when I render it out. So I'm going to just keep it like that right now. Keeping the other ones off. This one is on. I'm going to save my file one more time. And I'm going to just submit to render one more time. And then just render the sequence. Nothing else to do. I'll go through the process one more time. So there it is. It's just getting rendered right now. Just take a few seconds more to get it done. Right, I just finished it. Let me double check that the alpha there is the render. The Toon comes with it, so I can go back now to my folders. Under my images folder, you find your Toonline file right there. It's pretty thin, but if you look at it, there you have it. So you could bring those 4 folders to the compositing process in After Effects. Right? Hopefully this will help you rendering your Toon shaded version of your file.